And welcome to this edition of ACAP Today for the week of October 24, 2022. I'm Jason Parent with the Aroostook County Action Program. On this week's edition of ACAP Today, we're going to talk about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. You may have heard through the media that the program has wind down or is winding down at this time and has come to a pause. We're going to talk with Heidi Rackliffe, who oversees that program and a number of others here at the Aroostook County Action Program on this week's edition of ACAP Today. But before we get to that very important conversation, we're first going to get to the news and information that you can use again for the week of October 24th, 2022. And we start with the news and information that you can use this week with this. The County Fall Job Fair is coming to the Aroostook Center Mall. That's this Wednesday, October 26th. From 12 noon to 3 p.m. It's a partnership between the Career Center of the Maine Job Service, as well as the Central Aroostook Chamber of Commerce, of course, us here at ACAP, and the Aroostook Center Mall. It will be held at the Aroostook Center Mall. We invite one and all, if you're looking for employment or looking to gain greater employment, please check us out at the County Fall Job Fair this week, this Wednesday. We move on now to an event happening later in the week. That's the community baby shower happening this Friday at ACAP 771 Main Street Presque Isle facility. We have a few slots left open for this event. There are two sessions, one at 10 a.m. and one at 12:30 p.m. This is a free community event for new and expectant parents. Each of the two sessions begin with a short informational talk on safe sleep, followed by a number of vendor tables, opportunity to connect with local agencies that provide services to new and expectant parents, as well as to get resources and to win door prizes. Registered attendees will receive a free welcome baby bag full of useful items and information to support them and their new baby. We encourage you to go to ACAP's website or Facebook presence to pre-register, as pre-registration is required for this event so we can plan on numbers. And again, we do have a few slots left open in this very popular event, the first one happening this Friday, October 28th. We are looking to do this event in other parts of Aroostook County in the future, and stay tuned for more information on that. We also want to share with you that we have a few Head Start openings. It's very rare that this time of year we have Head Start openings, but we do have a limited number in Presque Isle, Caribou, Holton, Fort Kent, Van Buren, and Dyer Brook at those locations. Now, the Head Start program does provide a comprehensive preschool development program to 3- and 4-year-olds who are income eligible, including children with disabilities. So we encourage you, if you are interested in checking out Head Start opportunities with ACAP, you can call us at 768-3045 or complete an application on the Early Care and Education page of the ACAP website. And we do invite one and all to check in and look into those opportunities across Aroostook County and the centers noted there on the screen. We also are reminding folks out there that if you are in need of assistance to make water or wastewater treatment payments, the Maine Water Assistance Program, it's a limited time program to assist Maine residents who have fallen behind or are having difficulty paying their drinking water and wastewater bills. The program does provide direct payments to water and sewer utilities on behalf of the customer. There is income eligibility guidelines for this program. It is not being administered locally by ACAP or any other agency, but rather being administered directly by Maine Housing, and they can be reached at mainehousing.org, where you can see information about the program and income eligibility guidelines and apply directly online. And we encourage you, if you are in this position, to do so. We also are inviting folks up in the Van Buren area to join us for an expanded preschool partnership celebration at the Van Buren District School. That event is happening Tuesday, the 25th of October, this Tuesday, at the Van Buren District School, beginning at 9 a.m. We'll be there with community leaders and school officials to celebrate a brand new partnership in that community for 3-year-olds. We've had some great celebrations in Fort Kent, Caribou, and Limestone to mark those expansion preschool partnership programs, but we are looking forward to celebrating with folks in Van Buren this Tuesday, and welcome one and all to come to this event. We also are inviting folks who are interested in helping us out with our community closet, whether that's donating clothing or items for the community closet, like the nearby community cupboard at our 771 Main Street facility. It operates on a give what you can, take what you need principle. In addition to looking for clothing for the facility, we are also looking for volunteers to come help hang and organize clothes in the closet. If you would like to donate a couple of hours of time here and there, we would encourage you to contact Kim Garrett-Michaud here at ACAP. Her email address and phone number are there on your screen. And we are also reminding folks that with record high fuel prices, now is the time to see if you qualify for the Home Energy Assistance Program. We are anticipating a spike in interest in this program this year as a result of the unusually high prices. Please do not let stigma or other concerns stand in your way from giving us a call and seeing if you might apply. The telephone number directly to our Home Energy Assistance Program is 768-3053. The income eligibility guidelines are there on your screen. A couple of things about that. If for any reason your household income, even for just 1 month, has dipped at or near that, if you've had an adjustment in your household income or had to take some time off without pay or what have you, please do consider applying in the month following that, as your adjusted income will likely make you eligible for this program. Again, give us a call to set up an appointment if you feel you might qualify or want more information on this program. Now on to our COVID corner in news related to COVID-19 and vaccines. No matter which COVID-19 vaccine or how many boosters you've gotten, everyone 12 or older can get an updated vaccine at this point if it's been 2 months since your last dose. And this is specifically to help against the Omicron variant of the COVID-19 virus. If you are 6 months or older, you're eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine if you haven't received one at all. More information, including a list of vaccination sites, can be found at the dhsmaine.gov site. If you need assistance registering for a vaccine appointment and cannot find it online or aren't sure where to go, you can give us a call here and our reception team can help you out. 764-3721 is that number for ACAP's main office line. And we are reminding folks, and this is also new, that there are free COVID-19 tests available, and this is recycled every month. So if you've ordered in September, you're eligible again to order in October for free tests, a set of 3 sets of 4 free at-home kits. The orders usually ship within 7 to 12 days. Information is there on your screen. There's also a resource through Project ACT, and that website monthly revises as well, and that's accesscovidtest.org. And also COVID-19 isolation and quarantine support services are available here in Aroostook County through ACAP. You can also go directly to the DHHS website to fill out an application online or give us a call here directly at 764-3721. There are a number of services we can offer in this regard, but most notably grocery deliveries for folks who are confirmed to have COVID and who are asked to remain in their homes to not spread the virus. You can certainly call for that information and that support. And lastly, if you are in need of anything and we have not talked about it and not covered it, we do have more than 40 programs here at ACAP, or there are times that you are in need of programs and services and you're just not sure where to turn, give us a call here. We have navigators who can help you better access those services, whether they're ACAP services or help you navigate through to other agencies for services as you may need. And with that information, that's this week's news and information that you can use. I'm so pleased now to welcome to the program Heidi Rackliffe, who is ACAP's Director of Programs. And Heidi, first of all, thank you for being with us today and welcome back to the program.
Better in different speaking terms.
Yes, I know. This is one of those topics that a program that certainly has had its challenges throughout, and it's one of our pandemic era programs that we're going to talk about today, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So let's sort of get a pulse for this program and where things stand with it right now from you. And again, we are recording this on the 20th of October to air the week of the 24th, and things have been known to change rapidly, but it does appear that we have at least settled into what would be appearing to be somewhat of a new normal with this program and its fate. So maybe set some context for folks as it relates to that.
Yeah, sure. So the program, the ERA Emergency Rental Assistance Program, has been going for over a year, various forms, various funding sources. The program that we're currently implementing, we were informed at the very end of September that we were not allowed to take any new applications or any new assessments for any individuals. So it's important to know that in this program, an individual can receive up to 12 months of services, but they had to be in the same issues or barriers that they were facing and reapply every 3 months for that assistance. So unfortunately, when this news came out, we had an hour before the queue was completely shut off. So we weren't able to give the community the warning that we wanted to say, if you need to apply at this point. It just literally, the program stopped at that point to have any new applications come in. To be able to process the applications that we had been waiting and the ones that were receiving the programs ongoing. So at this point, the ERA program has come to a halt. There is no additional funding that's going to be coming from the Department of Treasury. We did receive notice. We were hoping that that might be extended or some additional funding would come through to push us over to open the application process back open again. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So at this point, we're processing the remaining applications. We have more requests for assistance than we do have funding. So we are prioritizing the applications that we currently have and assessing, doing deep processing to ensure that we're reaching folks who have either past rent or current month and not doing the projection of the future rent to ensure that we're spreading fairness across all of the applications and really trying to prevent evictions and individuals from experiencing homelessness because of their inability to have this rent paid. This includes folks that are using hotels and motels across the county. Their last day to be in a hotel or a motel will be October 31st.
Now, Heidi, I know that you've been with the agency about twice as long as I've been with the agency I've been with ACAP for 7 years. You've been here for much longer than that. There's been really a lot of misinformation as it relates to this program, what the intentions of this program. It's been very frustrating, I know, for you, for me, for all of us here at the agency. Talk about what this program was initially intended for and how it was intended to assist. And then maybe let's sort of take it from there and talk about what has evolved as a result of changes to the program, which have seemingly been ongoing.
Absolutely. So the program was originally designed, and it seems like such a short amount of time now that you look back, but when COVID first appeared, its roaring head in the county, it really hadn't touched point as it was so profoundly everywhere else in the nation, right? We were a little bit slower to have the increased numbers happening. This program was created to avoid homelessness from happening in the first place. People were all of a sudden being laid off. There was people were having to quarantine for durations of time. And so there was a halt in an individual's income to be able to pay for the much needed necessities such as housing. So then we did have an administration that pulled out supports to ensure that that did not happen, that our homelessness, which was already scary as it was not going to increase for those that were already housed because of this pandemic that was going on. So I often think to myself, did ERA contribute to the increased homelessness? And I feel confident that it did not. In fact, it actually just showed a light of the homelessness that has always been here and just increased because of the lack of resources that we have in the area. There was a lot of things that contributed to the amount of homelessness that we have in the area right now. But without this program, where would all of the families have gone? We've put into the county about $18 million. And so that's $18 million that went into landlords' hands. And that was always the intention. I don't know how the landlords would have been able to keep up their business if they didn't have that support and individuals. There were laws ensuring that people weren't evicted. But it doesn't mean that the landlords and other entities don't have bills themselves to pay for. So this was a really big help to our agency, to the nation, to be honest with you. And I'd be scared to see where we were if we didn't have it. So all good things come to an end. ERA program is coming to an end a lot faster than we ever anticipated. And so this is something that our agency has been seeing coming down the pike for about a year now. I would say this year has been, at the beginning of the year, we were one of the first community action agencies to really be banging the drum as loud as we could to say, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big issue on our hands. This is going to be the inevitable of the program. And what are we going to do to solve it so we don't get to a crunch time? We've implemented we have an homeless task force in which we expedited to do a subgroup, including board members of both the local homeless shelter as well as our agency, to really have more frequent meetings to try to find a solution to be able to help all of those 63 households that are in the motel and hotels that do not have an option come October 31st.
Now, there was a lot covered there, Heidi, and I want to sort of dissect pieces of that because I think a lot of the misinformation has been based upon some of the pieces of information that you just shared there. Can you first walk me through, because yes, the emergency rental assistance program was intended to be a homelessness diversion program, if you will, to keep people in their apartments and to ensure that landlords were getting paid, especially when income was absent or drastically cut back when folks were asked to isolate, quarantine, and actually got COVID-19. All of those things are true. However, it was never intended to be sort of a homelessness replacement program or homelessness services replacement program. Talk about parallel programs or separate programs that ACAP operated to help with that initially, and where some of the convergence issues happened with the emergency rental assistance program then sort of picking up and taking over from there.
Yeah, sure. You're 100% spot on. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's very true. The program was never designed to work specifically with individuals experiencing homelessness. However, when we question what happens to the individuals that are scarcely housed, what do we do? And then at that point, the program evolved to include that population, which is a huge component as to why I think the funding went so fast. You're paying a lot more for an individual to stay in a motel hotel than you are for an individual to have their monthly rent. So those pieces are all compiling, which has increased the amount of spending that we've done. Prior to ERA program existing, we've always had a gauge on the population of people who are struggling to maintain their monthly rent or those experiencing homelessness, whether that be through our Hope and Prosperity Center, our coaching and navigations teams, to deflect and divert people from becoming homeless in the first place. So this was not anything that is new. This is not new territory. We have started, this agency has been very much involved with the individuals scarcely housed since the beginning. I started here 13 years ago. So
walk me through, if you would, beginning of the pandemic and how we were engaged and involved with helping to support what was a larger number of individuals experiencing homelessness, and how that sort of transitioned over time to get us to where we're at today. Because I think there's a lot of folks who have some misunderstanding about, because of the historic way this has evolved. And we'll get into that in the next question, which is the relationship between the hotel owners and the tenants and ACAP in that dynamic. But walk us through sort of the evolution of working with the homeless population through the pandemic.
Yes. So our agency has actually been contacted through Maine Housing to provide 2 various pop-up shelters to meet an unmet need. And so our first shelter that we provided was placed in a congregate center, which was provided through partnership with UMPI, fantastic partners who allowed us full access to through their university when the college was shut down at that time. It was a great use of space. We were able to have help over 28 people find housing towards the end of that closure. And then it became, once COVID actually started increasing and we needed to adjust the situation of the shelter with ensuring that we were meeting social distancing guidelines, there wasn't enough space for our existing shelter. So we were approached again to provide a secondary shelter, which we did in a local hotel with staff ongoing 24 hours, 7 days a week. Eventually, COVID was not declared an emergency, a state of emergency anymore. So FEMA money wasn't available to access. So once that closed, we weren't able to provide that ongoing service, that assistance that individuals needed in a hotel. So that's when ERA started coming in, rental helped, and then again, it made those individuals experiencing homelessness eligible for a hotel. But the kicker this time was that there was no supporting staff to be able to have on site and provide those services day in and day out, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We do offer navigation services. We have navigators go to the hotel every day to work with the individuals that are placed in those, trying to help create plans for self-sufficiency, whether that be through employment or housing options. But unfortunately, with the program that we're implementing, it's not mandated, right? That service is optional. And we cannot make the judgment call to say, unless you're receiving or working with our staff, we can pay your bill. That's not the project or the program that we're running. We are simply providing the program that was slated per our contract, and can't differ from that.
So I think let's help folks understand the differentiation. You were certainly talking about that. Because I think one of the challenging things that have been discussed in the community on social media and the like has been about perhaps some of the challenging activity that may be happening at congregate hotel shelters. And there is a fundamental difference between the period of time that a hotel shelter was being run, an overflow shelter with 24/7 staff, regular room checks and things of that nature. And then what has really been the case since, and correct me if I'm wrong here, October of 2021, which has been using hotels across Aroostook County to serve, if you will, as an apartment or pseudo apartment, and what that arrangement is and what ACAP's involvement in that arrangement is, because I think that there's an understanding that this is something that we are operating, and it's not really any different, is it, from a traditional partnership that we have with any landlord across Aroostook County?
Correct. The Department of Treasury is very clear in the contract that we are literally the funding source. So that is all that we have the ability to do. And again, they did give us that additional component to offer navigation services, but not mandate it. So with that being said, anyone utilizing a motel or a hotel in the county, it's no different relationship than them being a private renter and having that relationship with the landlord. I can't go and implement rules on a tenant that is giving some hardships or some behavioral issues to that landlord. It's that landlord's responsibility to ensure that they're being accountable and holding up to the behavior that they accept. Our job as an agency is literally to process the payment, process the application, process the payment. Now, with our agency as a community action agency, we have a lot of services and programs, and every tenant that is utilizing our service is queued for presumptive eligibility to be informed of all of the services they could potentially be eligible for and are interested in receiving. However, again, it's not a mandate. We cannot mandate that an individual works with the workforce program that we have that has been a tremendous component to helping secure employment for a lot of the individuals that we work with through coaching, right? It's not that, even if we think it's a wonderful program that's going to help change a person's life, we can never force someone to participate in that. We can highly encourage and hope that they make that decision for themselves, but it has to be a decision they make for themselves.
And consistent with that, Heidi, as it relates to this program, and as we see the funding running out, the hotel program does operate under a different set of circumstances in terms of, if you will, a lease compared to a hotel owner. So the reason why October 31st is explain the reason why October 31st is more hard and fast deadline for the hotel program as opposed to other tenants and others in agreement.
I think that's a really good point. So with hotels, the way that, so typically we can do either arrearage with rent or 3 months forward. However, we cannot promise that with the hotels. We can only project and pay back. So we can never pay hotels ahead of the game. We can always pay that entity and that entity alone after the service is complete. So when we found out this change at the very end of August, I think it was the last day at 4 o'clock, we literally said, this literally means that we have 1 month timeline at this point.
So it is different. It functions differently.
Correct.
So what else, Heidi? I know that there's been there's a lot to this. There's been a lot that's unfolded over time. What else is it important for people to know?
I just would hope that the community would know that as a community action agency, this is not something that we have not been engaged in. We have been very active and asking anybody who's willing to lend an idea or a hand to try to come up with solutions. This has not been an easy task. This has probably been one of the most challenging issues that I've had to deal with in the 13 years that I've been practicing social work, because it seems as though every solution you think you can come up with, there is a barrier of some sort or another, whether that's NIMBY with people don't want it in their backyards, zoning, sprinklers, funding, you name it. I think it's easy for the community to say, well, why haven't we done this, this, and this? When I can assure you, there have been so many people around the table that we have crossed every T and dotted every I to find a variable and viable solution. And it's just, we have not come to that point at this time. So come October 31st, and literally I'm asking my team right now that is going into the hotel to talk to the residents and to say, if it was the 31st and you're packing every personal belonging that you have, what are you going to do when your exiting of the hotel or motel at 11 o'clock hits? What are you going to do? And for some people, they have the luxury to sleep in their car, right? At what point are we saying it's a luxury to have a car? But there are so many people that don't, right? So that's not even an option for people that don't have it, or have families or friends that they can sleep on somebody's couch, because there's very real that we don't have the capacity as of today to give anyone or to send them to a plan. So they will be finding space. They will be finding alcoves. They will be going to the emergency room. They will be going to the police departments. They will be going to any 24-hour open facility to try to stay warm, because they're human beings and they have no choice but to do that. That's a survival mechanism. And so I just ask the community to be kind to the people that are in a situation that is very difficult to change. I'd love to give apartments. I can't give an apartment if the apartment doesn't exist. And there's more people searching for apartments than there are apartments available today. And that's a very real thing.
And, speaking of something that's real, Heidi, one of the things that you did say, and I think it's worth and it bears repeating, is that, you talked about that the landlord, and in this case, in a hotel, the landlord is the property owner of the hotel, does in fact have the right to evict for things aside from non-payment if they're in the rental assistance program. So no one is forced to keep a tenant in their facility if they're not able to adhere to the rules of the property, correct?
Correct. Any landlord, any entity that's acting as a landlord, or in this case, landlords, they have the full right to do anything. The only clause that they cannot evict from somebody from is non-payment if they're participating in that program, right? Because we're the entity that's providing that payment. So they can evict for noise complaints. The sky is the limit. As long as it wasn't for non-payment, because we would be making that payment for them on their behalf, they can choose who they accept, just like any other landlord in the community.
And I know that you've had extensive conversations with local law enforcement and others, because there's also been an understanding that there is additional crime and more challenging behaviors happening. What have you heard in the context of your conversations, both with property owners and with the police, in terms of sort of myth and reality as it relates to those circumstances?
So it's easy to assume that some program or something has changed and that all of the negative assumptions are directed to that program, right? But if you look at where we're at in this world, what has happened with COVID? We've had increased substance misuse issues that we know that this has been an ongoing conversation for years. Increased criminal activity has happened. There is a lot of trajectory, increased mental health diagnosis, increased untreated mental health diagnosis. And I'm just touching the iceberg. There's so much more to this. With the effects of the pandemic that we're going to be seeing and dealing with for years to come. And so when all of this has started happening and we're saying, it's because of this program, or the assumption is made that it's because of this program. No, this is always happening. What's happening is all the individuals are at one location. So it's seeming as though, so instead of a police officer going to the various parts of the community that they might have prior to this program existence, all of the people, or a good chunk of the people, are at one location, one congregate location. Of course, you're going to have more calls to that facility than you did prior to. You have triple the numbers. You're looking at a hotel that is at full capacity. With more people, there is more potential for risks. More issues are going to occur. I think that's natural to assume that. I don't think that we're in a position where we can put blame on a specific program, and there's no way to correlate that either. There's no way to say that this program has happened because of this.
The other thing, Heidi, is I'm sort of going through my sort of mental memory of things that have been questioned. The demographics of the population that are being supported through the emergency rental assistance, both the global implications there in terms of the entire program in Aroostook County, and then the specific individuals who are being supported through what were hotel vouchers that are set to expire at the end of this month. Talk about those demographics and myth versus reality as it relates to those.
So I think it's really important. We're talking of the 4,000 people that we assisted in the county. I want to say a fourth of them were children. A huge population were seniors, elderly or disabled individuals. We did statistics counts to try to break some of these myths and stereotypes of individuals that were experiencing homelessness. Over half had income, right? Over half were on Social Security as well, not even including the ones that were employed, just Social Security. So if you're looking at the ones on Social Security, we're not set up as a community to even provide services for the aging population that we have in the county. We're an aging area, and this is going to continue to happen because we don't have the amount of elderly disabled housing to meet the needs of the aging population in the county. And so it's easy to say this is the specific stereotype or that's receiving this program and service, when in reality it's elderlies, seniors. Yes, do we have middle-aged people? Absolutely. But the one time that we do the counts and we stop a program or we didn't accept it, you're not helping those seniors or children either. So it's something very real to think about.
And you did mention, touched upon the fact that seeking alternative expanded opportunities to provide emergency overnight sheltering. Although it's been a challenge, we're not stopping. We're continuing to look for solutions, but the time frame, correct, is not going to match up, unfortunately, with the end of the program on October 31st.
Yeah, I mean, we have put in every single thing that we could possibly think of. Our agency, incredibly proud for them to be the ones to say, well, what can we do, and are willing to throw our application or our location to be a temporary overnight facility of some capacity if we even get to that point. But even that asking is a 90-day process. So unfortunately, even if that were to happen and we were able to have genuinely a miracle to come through, and with every zoning, with every sprinkling issue, it is still not going to happen until January. So we have until November to January, 2 months to figure out where folks are going to go.
And we are working multiple tracks on this. There's obviously the solutions that we're trying to identify and work diligently toward locally, but we're also having conversations and pounding on desks, if you will, at the statewide level, correct?
We have representation in statewide homelessness. We've been asking, we have staff here within the agency that are spearheading those conversations, asking if we can ask for a state of emergency to reduce some of those barriers and laws that are in place to meet this emergent need. So this is not just something that we're addressing local level. We know that it's much more. The entire state is in the same boat we are, if not worse, right? Unfortunately, I was downstate previously, and there was an entire park filled with tents, and we haven't gotten to that point. I hope we never do. But if someone has no place to go, the reality is it could be a reality for this area. So it's a very much a statewide issue. We are asking, we have members at the statewide homeless council, and actively using their voice every day to make sure that Aroostook County is not forgotten about, and that if there are resources that come out to the state, we need to make sure they come as far north as us as well.
Great. Heidi Rackliffe, anything else? We've spent a good amount of time talking about this. It's such a complex issue. There are many nuances to it. And again, a lot of misinformation, disinformation as it relates to this program. And among those, obviously, that folks were not working diligently to try to deal with some of the challenges we knew were inevitable, and others. Anything else?
I think that's all we have. I just be kind and try to help one another, because if ever there was a time, it would be now.
Great. Heidi Rackliffe, thank you so much for joining me on ACAP today. I wish it was under different circumstances, and it's not something that we certainly take lightly here at the agency, and have been working doggedly to try to resolve and solve, again, from a local perspective, and working with statewide partners who we really feel on all levels are needing to understand that this is a challenge that we all share collectively. It doesn't belong to one agency, it doesn't belong to one organization, and it needs to be a collective solution, as it's a collective challenge.
Absolutely.
All right, well, before we leave you, we end on a slightly different note, and that's taking you back in time to our throwback photo of the week all throughout the past year. In relation to ACAP's 50th anniversary, we've been bringing you our snapshot of the week in throwback fashion. And this week, we take it back to the year 1998, where one of our actually longest tenured employee at 45 years, Pat Good, who's sitting there at a computer. And Pat was the first person, not this computer, but was the first person at our agency to ever operate a computer, and has spent 45 years of her professional career here at ACAP. This was her in 1998, learning some new computer technology skills. And Pat continues to serve our team today. She's worked in various areas of the agency and currently is a team member at our 771 Main Street location here in Presque Isle. Our hats off to Pat Good and all of our team members who have served ACAP for many years, for their work and for learning new technology, as there's often changes in technology and new innovations that require us to expand our horizons. And certainly in her 45 years, Pat Good has done that on many occasions. Thank you, Pat, and thank you all of you. Thank you, Heidi Rackliffe. Thank you all of you for joining us. We'll be back next week with another edition of ACAP Today. Until then, have a great week.